Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm joined by Kirsten Fox from the Fox School of Wines. Welcome
Joe.
to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. You know why?
You.
Because it's going to get cold tomorrow, and that's going to make us think about fall and fall foods. And what are we going to drink with that? That's the question.
Well, it's a little early, I admit, in the morning to be talking wine, but
no, it's not. It's noon somewhere, right?
Yeah. As the foods kind of we get into the harvest season and the hearty foods, it is kind of the focus turns to richer, denser wines, and so I brought today some interesting wines to think about. As we move into those foods as well. And there's some science behind it too, so we'll talk about that.
That's so crazy because the funny part about this is I wouldn't say I consider myself a sommelier by any stretch of the imagination, but I know a little bit about wine, and I know that when we get into those heavier foods, that we typically want to get a bolder wine to go with them, something a little more, maybe a little more flavor, a little more of the earth tones too, some of those flavors. So I understand that, but I thought that was just because of taste. But there's some mechanics behind this that I had no idea about, which is what Fox School of Wines is all about.
We love teaching, so because you know what, I mean, we're here with wine, and you might remember them for, I don't know, if you're like me, maybe an hour.
Right.
And then the next time you're at the liquor store, you're like, what was that wine again? But if you can learn some concepts. So when we're talking about moving into richer, more hearty foods, they typically have more fat in them,
Absolutely.
and that's really associated with us trying to really bulk up for winter. It takes more calories to stay warm.
That's right.
And
I've been bulking up for winter all summer long.
Me too. So as the food gets fattier, actually fat in food goes with exactly hand in hand with tannin in red wine, and tannin is that compound that makes your mouth feel really tacky, like
a little dry
out. And it's also in tea. If you oversteep a cup of tea and you try to drink it, it kind of is grippy in your mouth.
Right.
So
Grippy
that's
is a good word.
Grippy. And banana skins, if you buy, so it has. It's actually a compound that is rough. It's actually big molecules, and they rub in your mouth. So if you don't have food in your mouth, it feels very puckery or very drying.
Yeah.
Well, get this. If you have a lot of fat in the food and it's coated your tongue, coated the roof of your mouth, as you introduce a wine with tannin, it acts like sandpaper to your taste buds, cleanses them off, and then you take your next bite and you taste it better.
It's so crazy.
So it's really got there's some reason behind stepping up the richness or boldness of the wine. Like
so
it
cleanses your palate the same way sherbet does when we're eating too.
It's literally
Same
a palate
idea.
cleansing device to help you taste the food next.
Wow.
So each of these wines in front of us has, if you like white wine, this is a rosé, and it has just a titch of tannin in it. Then we've got a Pinot Noir, which is got a little bit more tannin. And then we moved into a Syrah blend, and Syrah is one of the more hearty tannic wines.
Right.
So each of the three of these, depending on the food you're eating, is a great pairing choice.
Okay, and do we, now that we've sort of established that we want to get something a little bolder and a little more flavor, do we also start to say the same things we typically would now? We go fish, beef, is that how that works too? Or does that matter in this case when we're already into some of the colored wines?
It's a really good question because as food, there is with those myths of fish with white and beef with red, there is a base of truth to that.
Sure.
Because when you think of fish, it doesn't typically have as much fat in it, and so a white wine doesn't have the tannin. You don't need that tannin to cut the fat. Where a big piece of beef typically will have fat in it, and the red goes well with it. But in the world of food and wine now, it's more about the weight of the dish. So if you took a fish, let's just say a simple white fish, but you put a really buttery, creamy sauce on it, you've made it heavier in your mouth in terms of the presence and flavors and weight in your mouth. You would step up the wine.
I see.
Same with chicken. It's a basic dish. It might be considered a light to medium dish.
Okay.
You put a heavier, sauce on it, a brown sauce on
Right.
it, then it steps up and you'd be into a Pinot Noir perhaps.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more about the weight than the actual protein itself.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we have about 5 minutes here, or a little less than that. So I want.
Oh, well,
I
let's
think we
just-
better start drinking. Don't you think? Well, but I do have a question though. When it comes to the Fox School of Wines, tell me about. This is typically what we'd be discussing at the school, right? Something just like
Right.
this.
We focus on education associated with wine. So in our classes, they're an hour long. You're not
Right.
drinking for 2 to 5 hours at some
Yeah,
of these places.
indeed. And you're drinking an ounce at a time.
It's an ounce at a time so that you're getting the concept, you're getting the taste, but then you're moving out for the night and going to dinner and trying to use that newfound knowledge. Really, what we're trying to convey is concepts like that, rich tannic wines with rich, bold foods, that kind of thing. And so that when you leave, you're not trying to remember the exact label.
You don't need to.
You don't need to, you've got the concept. So the classes are, when we start, we are on fall break right now.
Right.
We are starting our normal classes, our wine classes on Saturday nights, starting early December.
Okay.
We mirror Deer Valley's open schedule. We're early December.
That's easy to remember.
It's easy to remember, to April. And then we are starting a really awesome new class coming up this October 13th. It's called Second Sunday
I like this
Tastings. It's an hour-long class, and we're doing it at the Grub Steak. And we're doing 4 wines paired
That's
with
good
4
food.
foods.
Yeah.
And it's 4 to 5, so it's an alternative to a hot tub party, really. I mean, what are you going to do after skiing anyway, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's an
You should eat.
It's redeeming. And so it'll be really fun, and again, it's only an hour, so it's not going to take the whole evening away from your family.
No, that's terrific. All right. Well, let's kind of go through the steps here. So we've got this
We
one.
start with the lightest. When you're doing a wine tasting, you always want to start at the lightest wine. So this is our rosé, and you look at it to see what color. Oh, beautiful color,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
And you would swirl. So
You're
if you don't
a
like
better swirler than I am.
I do it a lot.
I can swirl. But
You know
not
what?
quite
Put it
that
on
way.
the table.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you swirl like
oh,
that.
Yeah, look. Now I'm a pro, huh?
So we're doing that to lift the molecules into the bowl of the glass.
Right.
So then
that gives us the opportunity to smell it better.
to smell. Now this is a rosé of Pinot Noir grapes. So they actually took the grapes, squeezed them. They're very black grapes. They squeeze them. The juice runs out clear, but they leave the juice on the skins to pick up
The
just a
color.
little bit of color.
Okay.
So go take a nice
I'm gonna do
swirl,
the
sniff.
trick again here.
And then you do it's very nice. There's a lot of
You breathe it in.
strawberries, watermelon,
Yeah, I smell the watermelon for sure.
and then a little sip,
Okay.
which will be great after my brush teeth. It's like orange juice after brushing teeth. Not good.
Oh, I'm not having that problem.
Good.
Oh boy,
So this is
I love that.
a beautiful. Now
it's a little
this
citrusy almost.
very acidic, which helps your
Yeah.
mouth start to water,
Okay.
which also helps you taste your food, because the more your mouth is watering, the more you're able to basically macerate it, and your taste buds taste
Really?
the molecules better.
Oh, that's right, because it break down the food more.
So
I
if your
never
mouth's
thought of that.
watering, so that's
That's a
a
terrific
good
thing.
way to start a meal. This is a perfect salmon wine. It's a perfect chicken wine if it's a little simpler chicken. Also, vegetables are
Okay.
great with this. One of the things you want to do is, as you're looking at what to pair, the Pinot Noir grape has a profile that's very earthy often,
Right.
not just fruity.
I also taste it's like a light wood flavor.
It does
It's
have
almost
some wood.
Yeah.
Very good. If you were in class, I'd give you a sticker.
Thank you.
So you want a little earth in
Yeah.
your wines in the fall and winter, because
Absolutely.
we're eating them with squashes.
Yeah,
and
gourds.
Yeah.
It's such a terrific time to. I love wine with gourds.
That's
they
exactly.
go together so well.
And so the earthy wines will really pair well with that.
right.
Okay,
We
so
have 2
now
minutes, so we
this
gotta
is
get
a
each on
Pinot.
that.
It's
Okay.
a full Pinot Noir.
Okay.
Again, this is stepping up in tannin,
Okay.
and
See what I can
you're gonna get more of the aromas, more cherry,
Ooh,
dark berries.
Yeah.
Okay.
this smells like my grandmother's backyard in Massachusetts.
Oh, so
what it smells
forest
like to me,
floor.
yeah.
So that's a lot of the earth that
Yeah.
you're going to get.
My grandfather used to go out there and collect the berries himself and make wine.
Oh.
And it smells just like that to me.
So this is a beautiful, you get more of that grippy compound in your mouth.
Oh, for sure.
So you could step up the food that you're serving it with into a little more rich food.
Yeah, this tastes like it would be good with a brisket or something.
Oh, some stews of winter.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So that's a good Pinot. So the same grape, just they didn't steep this rosé as long.
All right.
Now
so
this
we'll
is our
move on to
heavier.
the heavier one.
This is Syrah, a blend. Syrah, Mourvedre, and what was the other grape? Oh yeah, Viognier.
And the good thing about blends is they're often, as I understand it, blends because of the fact that you're using so many different grapes. People tend to like them a little more. They're a little more palatable. They're not one thing or the other. They fit a lot more people.
You're absolutely right, and they go very well with food often. That's a very good point. So Syrah is one of the biggest tannin grapes, and you can see how much darker it is
that one
than
is
a
really
Pinot.
dry too.
You're going to get more of that tannin, aren't you?
Yes.
So you can imagine, right now this is just almost, you can hardly drink it without food in your mouth.
Yeah, you would need, this I think goes really good with the ribeye.
Oh,
right?
I mean,
a lot of fat in that.
Yes, exactly. So that's what you're going to use these for in terms of your wine and food pairing experiences.
The only thing I would like better is if we were at the grub steak right now eating some
gosh,
meat with
I
it. Wouldn't that be great?
They have got some beautiful food there, so I'm excited about that.
So people want to do that.
Yeah. So what we do is foxschoolofwine.com is our website, and we're taking reservations there. We do have limited class sizes.
All right.
So that is starting October 13th, second Sundays of every month.
Kirsten
and then we start in
Fox.
December.
And December
Thank you,
is
Joe.
the Fun
Yeah,
School
that's the good
theme
stuff.
every week,
Yep.
right? Mm-hmm. Kirsten Fox of the Fox School of Wines. Awesome. Thank you so
Joe.
much for
So good
teaching
to
me.
see
I
you.
love this. All right. Well, Chelsea's going to get taught about animals. In fact, I think Lego animals with the Hogle Zoo right after this. We'll be right back.